Before we get into this video, I want to call out a very, very specific group of people. Now, there are kind of two demographics I figured out that watch my videos. There are 19-year-old kids that are stupid and dumb, and then there's dads. Those are the two demographics that like my channel. But in some cases, they watch it together. So today I want to shout out Carson's dad, because him and I presume Carson, who sent me this message, he watches my videos with his dad. And to me, that's two birds with one stone. Because one, the best way to make sure your child turns out good and not some stupid E90 driver is to spend time with them. The second thing is that you are receiving what's essentially a PhD level education condensed into a 15-minute tier list. Shout out Carson's dad. Hairline reveal at 100K. We're on our grind. Let's hop right into the tier list. So today, I'm going to be talking about the absolute worst things that you can learn from these driving schools, things to avoid and things to unlearn, okay? If you have been through a standard driving school, picked up these things, you need to drop these habits immediately. I'm going to be ranking them from actually things they may have gotten right all the way up to things you have to unlearn, like literally the next time you get on the road. Let's get into the video. Starting off, we have one that is stressed a lot. And I've actually had friends fail their exam because they didn't do this, and that is steady acceleration onto the highway. For some reason, driving instructors as well as examiners love to push this. It's that you must be steady at all times with your acceleration. Be very gentle. And this is just stupid, okay? Heavy acceleration is oftentimes a very good thing that you should be practicing. Now look, if you're at an intersection, you gun it. Absolutely don't do that. Terrible, unsafe. But if you're coming onto a highway, the on-ramp is where you go from like almost a standstill speed all the way up to highway speeds, okay? And even if the highways are slow, like where I'm from, they're 80 kilometers per hour, doesn't matter. You need to get up to highway speeds. This is such an unsafe thing. I've explained this before. If cars are ripping and you're going slow, it's dangerous. They're going to hit you, okay? It's super dangerous. This is not talked about enough. Absolutely unlearn this one ASAP. We're starting off hot. Next up, we got such a classic, and this is over shoulder checking. Now look, am I telling you not to shoulder check? No. I think if anything, society under shoulder checks. But I think examiners stress it too much to the point where it gets exhaustive. Feels like when I'm taking a driving exam or when you're in driving school, that it's like anytime you're doing literally anything, they're like, oh, check your shoulder, check your shoulder, check your shoulder. To the point where it feels like you have your head over your shoulder more than you are looking in the direction of travel. And this is the problem with this. First of all, obviously, I just said it. You got to be looking the direction of travel most of the time. But assuming you still are, but you're still over shoulder checking, when you only rely on shoulder checking, that diminishes other tools you can use. For example, your mirrors, which aren't that accurate, to be honest, but they can help. And more importantly, situational awareness. If you're just trained to be a robot to constantly shoulder check and you're not at all learning situational awareness, like, hey, let me be aware of where cars are around me, that's bad, okay? So yeah, shoulder checking is great, but if you're overdoing it to the point where it gets exhaustive, you're not going to use other methods like situational awareness, which in combination with the right amount of shoulder checking can make you an extremely safe driver. I hope that made sense. I'm putting this in bad driving. Next up, we got signaling at roundabouts. If you guys are fans of the channel for a while, you know, but if you're new, let me tell you something. I am the biggest proprietor of signaling you will ever meet. Because to me, the cost is so low, it's pretty much nothing. And the benefit can range anywhere from, pretty much nothing to life-saving. Signaling is huge. It is so helpful in so many cases, and roundabouts are no exception. Roundabouts can cause a lot of traffic buildup, so if you're signaling, it can let people know who are trying to enter the roundabout what your intention is. Traffic can flow smoother. Everyone can get where they need to be quicker. You should definitely be signaling in roundabouts. It seems so trivial, but it's so important. And the more you make signaling a habit, the better. This is going into they got it right. Absolutely signal in roundabouts. Next up, staying right on the limit at all times. Now, in my first video, I got near canceled for telling people that it might actually be a bad driving habit if you're always on the limit, because you have the tendency to maybe go under a bit. And a lot of places, limits are too slow. And, I thought about that. I thought that was a good take at the time. And I've kind of sat down and done some reflection. And as someone who's giving advice, I feel like it's important for me to take accountability and tell you that I still believe the same thing. If you're always on the limit, you're going too slow. Now, it completely depends on the region you are in, okay? Some places have appropriately set limits. How can you tell if the limits are appropriately set? The general flow of traffic follows the limit. In that case, follow the limit. Here's my thing. The flow is a better dictator of proper speed than the street signs. For example, I live in Vancouver. The limits here are insane. It is 80 kilometers per hour on a highway and 50 on any other major road. That is insane. So in that case, the flow has dictated, the common person has dictated that's too slow, and the flow on the highways is more about 100, 110, which is very reasonable for a wide open freeway. And on side streets, it's, 60-ish, 65. That's good. The flow has dictated that. The common person has dictated that's a reasonable speed. Follow the flow, follow the culture of the city while still doing speeds that are reasonable, okay? For that reason, bad driving. Next up, we have never using the horn. Now, it feels like when you're taking a driving exam or driving with an instructor, it is like a cardinal sin to use the horn. Use your horn. Okay, when I was taking my driving license, I had right away, and this guy just made a left turn right into my lane, almost hit me, okay? But because I was so scared that the examiner would be like, oh, that's road rage and you're an irresponsible, reckless driver, I just didn't do anything. I just took it on the chin, even though that dude blatantly cut me off and almost hit my car, and a quick horn would have been beneficial. But no, I was too scared. Is that a me problem? Maybe she would have been fine with it, but maybe not. Horns are so frowned upon a lot of the time, and yet they're so useful. So for not using your horn, never ever do this. Use your horn. Next up, we have not changing lanes in an intersection. Now it's like a cardinal sin, right? We have an intersection and it's a 2-lane road to change mid-intersection. And honestly, guys, as much as it pains me to say it, driving schools and driving examiners are right about this. Intersections are crazy. They're where all the accidents happen. You need to be predictable. I mean, there are no lanes for you to cross or no lines or anything like that. You can't be predictable. No one's going to know where you are if you're changing lanes in between there. I'm going to say they got it right here. Next up, a lot of driving schools will preach when you're at an intersection, you're allowed to turn right on a red, that you don't have to. And yes, technically, by all legal standards, they are right. Here's my problem with that. A lot of the time, intersections have long cycles. That means when it's actually green for you, it's like once every 5 minutes. A lot of times there are a lot of people waiting to turn right on a road. So if you're stopping there, even when you could turn right, you might be holding up a lot of people, wasting your time, wasting other people's time. Just make the right turn. The argument driving instructors use is like, oh, what if you're not confident? Well, if you're not confident to make a right turn in an intersection, you might not be confident enough for the road. I think there are exceptions if the intersection's chaotic, there's pedestrians crossing, stuff like that. But in most cases, you should be. So I'm going to balance it out at meh. Next up, we have one of the biggest lies ever told by big driving. And that is feeding the wheel. Instead of explaining it, I'll put 2 videos on the screen. And just by looking at this, you should tell that hand over hand is the correct method. At the end of the day, how you turn isn't as big of a deal. Use whatever turning method gives you the most control over the car and makes you the most confident on the road. But their mandatory push of feeding the wheel, which is a terrible, outdated, stupid method, is absolutely ridiculous. Never do this. Next up, we have always using your handbrake. If you're in a manual car, I wouldn't trust first gear, throw up your handbrake. But if we're in an automatic, the park gear is doing a pretty good job of keeping your car still. The amount that driving examiners and instructors stress this is a little overkill. However, it can't hurt. I mean, yes, it could theoretically wear out your parking brake faster, but it's not as big as a deal as they make it seem. For that reason, I'm going to balance it out at meh. Next up, leaving massive gaps at stoplights or stop signs. So you have some weird rule where you have to see like the front of the car completely ahead of you, and there's rhyme and reason to that. But that's a little extreme, okay? Yes, leave a gap in between cars. You shouldn't be sandwiched up at traffic. But in some cases, leaving too much of a gap, especially if everyone does this, it's going to leave way less room in intersections. Let's say it's a tight intersection, only a certain amount of cars can fit through. A few cars won't be able to make it if you're leaving so much gap. And also seeing the cars ahead of you is like completely arbitrary because like, what if your car's roof line is higher? What if you're taller? What if you're shorter? There's so many things to consider here, so many factors. Leave a decent enough gap. Also make sure to be aware of other cars. Maybe someone's trying to squeeze by to get into the turning lane. Leaving way too much space, in my opinion, bad driving. Finally, we have not using your headlights for communicating. Now it is, I think in some places technically illegal, which is absolutely crazy. Using your brights to communicate is actually a fantastic. It can politely communicate things or communicate critical information from like a longer distance, i.e. cops ahead, stuff like that. Obviously driving schools are not going to teach you how to help other people avoid cops, but in reality it is such a good thing to use your brights. You should 100% be doing this. If you're never using them, you have to unlearn this habit ASAP. Start using your brights to communicate. It's so helpful. Let me know if you guys agreed. Join the Discord down below. I appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.